Welcome to Geography 385, Module 3. This module concerns itself with the basics of cartography. Before we go to cartography, remember what happened in the last module, and that was what was called georeferencing. So I have a challenge for you related to georeferencing, and the challenge is I want you to pause the video and then say the words developable surface 4 times as fast as you can. So go ahead, pause the video, say developable surface 4 times as fast as you can. Okay. Hopefully you met the challenge and you were able to say developable surface 4 times as fast as you can. And if so, you probably realized that developable surface is a real mouthful. And if anyone was in earshot of you saying developable surface 4 times as fast as you can, they may have said, "What the bleep is a developable surface?" And if you took the time to explain to them that a developable surface was a plane, a cone, or a cylinder that's used to project the three-dimensional Earth onto a flat map, and that in doing so the resulting flat map has distortions of one form or another, then you probably understand georeferencing pretty well. So let's move on. Back in Module 1 I talked a little bit about metaphors and similes and how GIS is kind of like learning to speak a foreign language. And I covered what the course is going to be about, and I told you that it's going to be learning vocabulary and grammar in order to put together sentences and paragraphs to tell a compelling geographic story about your world. So that compelling geographic story is kind of the key term in there. What the heck is a geographic story? It's a story where geography matters. Remember the first law of geography, Robichaud's first law. If it makes a difference where, geography matters. Okay, so if you're going to tell a geographic story, the best way to tell it is with a map. Alright, so what the heck is a map? It's something that you make using the art or technique that's known as cartography. So this module is about the basics of how you make a map that's going to tell a compelling geographic story about the information that you've created using your GIS. This is just the basics of cartography. If you're interested in getting a GIS certificate, you'll notice that one of the elective courses is Geography 390, which is Geographic Visualization. So you can take an entire 3-credit full semester course talking basically about cartography. I'm going to cover cartography in one module. So you're only going to get the basics, the high-level stuff. If you're interested in either the GIS certificate or just learning more about cartography, you should think about enrolling in Geography 390. Okay, so how do you represent where? This came from back in Module 2 also. And when you can see everything, that's fine. You can represent where by just pointing things out in this landscape and people can understand what it is you're saying. But if you want to represent where in some place or some way that people can't currently see, you're probably going to use a map. So I have another challenge for you. Apparently the oldest map known comes from 25,000 years BC in the Czech Republic. And the challenge I have for you on this one is try to find an image of that map. Now I've spent some time out there trying to find an image of that map, and I just can't find an image of that map. So if you can find one, you will have met the challenge of finding the oldest map. But from 25,000 years BC to the present is a lot of time, so there's a long history in cartography. This is a map that comes from 14,000 years ago before present, from Spain. This map was carved on a mammoth tusk, and you can see that even back then there was some type of a model that humans used to represent reality in the form of a map. And so that map told some type of compelling geographic story to the people who were able to pick up that mammoth tusk and read the map. Move forward to 12,000 years BC. Well, that would be about the same time in Ukraine. And this map was etched on sandstone. And a lot of the earlier maps were what might be called petroglyphs, where they were etched on stone and rock. And so this is another map. You can see that it's a model. It just represents reality. But to the people back then, it had some type of concrete connection to geography and reality. 1507, in the 1600s, there was a lot of discovery going on. People were traveling across what was then the New World, trying to figure out where things were and how to get there. And so the first map that used the term America came out in 1507. And this is a picture of that map. It was divided into 12 different sections. You can see it shows the entire world. It is a distorted projection of the globe, some type of projection. If I zoom in to the very lower left, I see that the word America appears down here in the lower left. America was the name that the mapmaker gave to this part of the world after Americi or Americus or Amerigo Vespucci, who was a traveler back in the days, and he explored a lot of what's now South America. This is also after the time that Columbus had sailed across the ocean, but this mapmaker, Waldseemüller, apparently was more impressed with Vespucci's writings, and so he called that part of the world on his map America. So that's the drawing of Vespucci. Over here is Ptolemy, and Ptolemy was one of the first ancients that came up with mapping techniques and projections. So he's another historical figure in map making. If you zoom in to a piece of this map, you can see a lot of the stuff that's on the map are places, and you can imagine that these places were stops for ships. So if you had a ship and you needed to go to a certain place, you could use this map to figure out where the place was, maybe what type of landmarks like streams would flow into the ocean at that point, so you'd know you were being there, what type of points there might be, some type of landmarks. So this is what would basically be called what's now a reference map. And a reference map is about getting around the landscape. So it's a way for you to get around the landscape. But little did you know that since this is the first use of America in a map, and this location is pretty much around what is now Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, that the first Americans were actually Brazilians. A lot of what cartography is about, art and technique, involves just looking at maps and figuring out what is good about a map or what is bad about a map. And it's a lot about perception and how humans perceive things. And one of the ways you get good at making maps is by looking at other maps that are either made properly or maybe have some issues with them. And one of the places you can go is out to the Esri website, and they have these things called map books that used to be produced only in hard copy, but now in the modern day you can look at some of these electronically. And you can look at these map books and actually see really good examples of what a map is about and how it actually tells compelling geographic stories. So that's kind of an introduction to this module, and in the next video I'll start talking about what's called the cartographic process model, which is a way to represent, simplify and represent some aspect of reality. In this case, the reality is making a map. So tune in next time for that video.